All right, buckle up because today we're diving into a case that's absolutely chilling. And honestly, it's a real head scratcher.
Yeah.
It's the Alcácer murders.
It's a case that really gripped Spain back in the 90s.
And even today, it's just surrounded by all these unanswered questions, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And even doubts about what really happened.
We're going off this Wikipedia article, laying out kind of the facts as we know them.
Yeah.
But let's unpack this thing.
Yeah.
What makes this case so captivating, even decades later?
Well, I think one of the things that makes this case stand out
Yeah.
is that it goes beyond your typical true crime story. You know, it's
Okay.
not just the horrific details of the crime itself.
Right.
It's the media frenzy, the public obsession,
Oh, yeah.
and all those enduring mysteries that really just keep people talking even today.
So picture this.
Yeah.
Alcácer, Spain, 1992.
Right.
3 teenage girls, Miriam, Tony, and Desiree, getting ready for a Friday night out.
Yeah.
Just a typical night for teenagers.
Exactly. Just a normal night. Yeah. They were 14 and 15, heading to a disco in Picassent for a school party.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. But their plans took a turn, an unexpected turn,
Okay.
when their usual ride fell through.
Oh, no.
So they decided to hitchhike,
Yeah?
which was, pretty common back then.
Right.
It was a decision that would tragically change everything, though.
So November 13th, 1992,
Yeah.
a date etched in Spanish history.
Sadly.
The girls just vanished
Yeah.
before reaching that disco.
Right.
And what really set off alarm bells was that these girls were known to be responsible. There
Yeah.
was no reason, to believe they'd run away.
No, it was really out of character for them.
Yeah.
They had barely any money or belongings with them either.
So their disappearance, obviously,
Yeah.
sparked a massive search, right?
Oh, absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Authorities, families, volunteers, everyone was on high alert.
Wow.
The media, of course, jumped on the story,
Mm-hmm.
amplifying the national concern. I mean, it was constant headlines.
It's so scary.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't even imagine the anguish
Yeah.
of those 75 days with so many unanswered questions.
Right. It was just agonizing for everyone involved.
And sadly, even a volunteer lost his life during that search, right?
Yes, tragedy.
It's just adding another layer of sorrow to an already horrific situation.
Absolutely.
And then 75 days, agonizing days
Mhm.
after they vanished,
No,
2 beekeepers stumbled upon a shallow grave
no,
in this remote ravine near Toulouse.
horrible.
Devastating discovery.
Really was.
And the bodies, they were so decomposed that identification was difficult.
Right.
But one crucial clue emerged,
Okay.
a medical slip with the name Enrique Angles Martins on it.
Interesting.
And that little slip of paper changed everything.
That name immediately put the spotlight on the Angles brothers.
Okay.
You had Antonio, who had a criminal record, and Enrique, his brother,
Okay.
who had intellectual disabilities.
Right.
And remember that medical slip we talked about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had actually been prescribed to Antonio,
Really?
who had used his brother's identity at the hospital.
So we have a possible connection to the missing girls now.
Right.
Where do investigators go from here?
So the investigation focused in on those Angles brothers,
Yeah.
but another name surfaced as well.
Okay.
A guy named Miguel Ricard, a friend of Antonio's.
Mm-hmm.
He got arrested because his initial testimony just didn't add up.
Okay.
And witnesses had described a car that matched his.
Interesting.
But as they were gaining momentum on this investigation,
Yeah.
Antonio Angles just vanished,
Oh, wow.
became a fugitive.
Seriously?
Sparking a nationwide manhunt. I mean, they were looking everywhere for this guy.
And to this day,
Yeah,
still a mystery.
his whereabouts are completely unknown.
Okay, so now we got a missing suspect on the run.
Right.
What happened next?
Well, autopsies were conducted, of course.
Yeah.
And both the initial one and a more detailed one done later by Dr. Luz Frontella revealed the horrifying truth of what those poor girls endured.
It's awful.
I can't even imagine.
They had been bound, tortured, sexually assaulted before being shot in the head.
It's just unimaginable.
It's hard to even comprehend the level of cruelty they suffered.
And it doesn't end there, right?
No, it doesn't.
Dr. Frontella's findings actually differed in some ways from that first autopsy.
Exactly.
He suggested the girls might even been buried in 2 different locations,
Right.
hinting at the possibility of even more people being involved.
Yeah, it definitely complicated things.
And we got to remember,
Yeah.
forensic science in the early 90s,
Mm-hmm.
not what it is today.
Oh, absolutely not.
Think about DNA technology.
Right. Totally.
It was in its infancy back then.
That was brand new, really.
And this lack of sophisticated tools and techniques, It just left so many gaps in the evidence
Absolutely.
and a lot of room for speculation.
Plenty of room for doubt and different interpretations.
So fugitive on the run, conflicting autopsy reports.
Whole lot of unanswered questions.
It's a mess.
But what about Miguel Ricard?
Yeah.
What was his role in all this?
Well, Ricard initially confessed
Okay.
to participating in the crimes.
He did?
Yeah, and his confession.
Yeah.
It detailed a horrifying sequence of events that implicated both him and Antonio Ingles.
Wow.
It was a chilling account,
Really?
that provided some insight into the girl's final moments.
But then he recanted, right?
He did.
He recanted his confession.
Yeah.
Why would he do that after confessing to such horrific acts?
Well, he claimed that the Guardia Civil, Spain's law enforcement agency,
Okay.
they tortured him
Oh, wow.
into admitting guilt.
Wow.
And to make things even murkier, he started pointing fingers at others,
Oh.
including another Angles brother,
Okay.
Mauricio, and this mysterious figure known as El Nano.
So what does this mean for the investigation then?
Right.
We're left with a confession that's been withdrawn,
Yeah.
a fugitive who's vanished, new names being thrown into the mix.
It's a tangled web, for sure.
It sounds like the case is becoming more and more tangled.
Yeah, and this is where the Alcácer case takes a turn
Right.
that goes beyond just the criminal investigation. You got the media frenzy,
Right.
the public's just hunger for answers,
Uh-huh.
and then the emergence of alternative theories
Yeah.
all contribute to making this case a true phenomenon in Spain.
So we've laid some groundwork.
Right.
3 missing girls,
Yeah.
horrifying discovery,
Uh-huh.
a fugitive, and a confession that's been taken aback.
Yeah.
This case is about to get even more complex.
Oh, yeah.
But before we jump into the trial and the whirlwind of theories,
Right.
let's take a closer look at some of the key figures involved,
Okay.
particularly Antonio Ingles.
Yeah, his disappearance is a whole other layer of intrigue to this already complicated story.
His escape and the mystery around his whereabouts have fueled endless speculation.
Oh, tons of speculation.
Was he a mastermind?
Right.
Who managed to outsmart the authorities?
Yeah.
Or was he a desperate man on the run,
Mm-hmm.
driven by fear and just survival instincts?
I mean, these are questions that have lingered for decades.
It sounds like we're about to go even deeper into this rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Join us for part 2, where we'll explore the trial of Miguel Ricard,
Right.
the media frenzy around the case,
Mm-hmm.
and the emergence of alternative theories that just captivated a nation.
It's going to get wild.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Buckle up.
We'll see you there.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Alcácer murders. Last time we left off with a tangled web of suspects, a missing fugitive, and a recanted confession. So let's step into the courtroom now
Right.
and see how this case actually played out
Yeah.
in the eyes of the law.
So the trial of Miguel Ricard took place in 1997
Okay.
at the Provincial Court of Valencia.
Yeah?
It was a highly publicized event.
Oh, I bet.
The eyes of the nation were definitely fixed on those proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
Ricard faced charges of kidnapping, rape, murder, and illegal burial.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a...
Weighty indictment for a case that had gripped Spain,
Yeah.
for sure.
It sounds like a real-life, legal drama, you know?
Oh, absolutely, with so much attention on that courtroom.
Yeah.
Was there a sense that this trial would finally provide some answers?
I think there was a lot of anticipation, definitely. People were hoping the trial would bring some closure to the case.
Especially with Angles still out there.
Yeah, especially with Antonio Ingles still at large.
Yeah.
But the trial itself turned out to be just as controversial
Really?
as that investigation that came before it.
What made the trial so controversial?
Well, a few things.
Yeah.
Remember, Ricard had recanted that earlier confession,
Right.
claiming he was coerced by the Guardia Civil. So from the start, his defense was like, hey, that initial confession,
Yeah.
unreliable.
Right.
This immediately introduced doubt into the whole thing.
Yeah, into the proceedings.
So the validity of that confession
Yeah.
was a major point of contention.
It was huge.
Okay, what other issues came up during the trial?
Well, Dr. Frontella,
Yeah.
the forensic expert who did that second autopsy,
Okay.
he submitted a last-minute report
Oh, wow.
that kind of threw another wrench into the works.
Okay.
His report contradicted some of the findings of the first autopsy,
Interesting.
raising even more questions about the timeline of events
Yeah.
and the possibility of other people being involved.
Wow.
Yeah.
So The trial itself became like a battle of the experts
Oh, yeah,
with these conflicting interpretations of the evidence.
for sure.
What was the atmosphere actually like in the courtroom?
It was tense.
I bet.
Very tense. There were heated exchanges
Really?
between Dr. Frontella and the forensic team from that first autopsy.
Okay.
They were debating the cause of death, the handling of the evidence,
Yeah.
even if the girls had been killed at the location their bodies were found.
So, with so much uncertainty surrounding the forensic evidence, did the prosecution have a strong case?
Well, they relied heavily on circumstantial evidence,
Okay.
witness testimonies,
Yeah.
and that initial confession that Ricard later recanted.
Right.
The defense, of course, argued
Yeah.
that confession was obtained under duress
Mm-hmm.
and that the rest of the evidence was insufficient
To prove his guilt.
to prove Ricard's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
And of course, looming over this entire trial
Yeah.
is the absence of Antonio Angles.
Right.
Did his escape and continued absence have any impact on the proceeding?
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't ignore the fact that one of the key suspects
Right.
was still out there.
Yeah,
His absence fueled a ton of speculation
I bet.
and made it really hard to piece together a complete picture
Of what happened.
of what actually happened. Even family members of Antonio were called to testify, hoping to shed some light on his relationship with Ricard
Okay.
and his potential involvement.
So, with all these factors at play,
Right.
the disputed confession,
Yeah.
the conflicting forensic evidence,
Uh-huh.
and a missing suspect,
Yeah.
what was the outcome of the trial?
Well, after weeks of intense testimony
Yeah.
and deliberation,
Mm-hmm.
the jury reached a verdict on September 5th, 1997.
Okay.
They found Miguel Ricard guilty
Wow.
of kidnapping, rape, murder, and illegal burial.
Wow.
He was sentenced to 170 years in prison.
Okay.
That was the maximum sentence allowed at the time.
Okay.
He was also ordered to pay a significant sum in financial compensation to the families of the victims.
A guilty verdict, a maximum sentence.
Yeah.
It seems like justice was served, but
Well,
did the families find any sense of closure?
I think while the conviction provided some sense of legal resolution,
Yeah.
the Alcácer case
Yeah.
remained far from closed. The shadow of Antonio Angles, still a fugitive, hung over the entire thing.
I bet.
A lot of people felt justice was incomplete without bringing him to account.
Yeah.
And beyond the legal aspects of this case, this powerful undercurrent of public sentiment
Right.
was brewing, one that would challenge the official narrative and propel the Alcácer case
Really?
into the realm of speculation and conspiracy theories.
Wow.
Yeah,
This brings us to the rise of alternative theories surrounding this case.
yeah.
What fueled this wave of speculation, and how did it impact the public's perception of the Alcácer murders?
So a big factor was the deep distrust
Okay.
that a lot of people felt towards the official investigation.
Interesting.
The perceived inconsistencies,
Right?
the unanswered questions,
Yeah.
and the lack of a definitive conclusion fueled this belief
Yeah.
that something more sinister was happening.
It's understandable, I think, that people would question the official narrative
Right.
when faced with so much uncertainty
Yeah,
and a lack of concrete answers.
absolutely.
But what specific theories emerged?
Right.
And who were the key figures driving these alternative narratives?
So, one of the most vocal proponent
Yeah.
of these alternative theories
Okay.
was Fernando Garcia,
Okay.
Miriam's father,
Wow.
grief-stricken,
Yeah.
fueled by this profound sense of injustice.
Yeah.
He dedicated himself to uncovering what he believed to be the truth,
Yeah.
even if it meant going against the official narrative.
His grief and determination are understandable.
Totally.
So what path did his search for answers lead him down?
He collaborated with a journalist
Okay.
named Juan Ignacio Blanco,
Okay.
who was known for his controversial investigative work.
Right.
Together, they presented an alternative narrative,
Okay.
captivating the public,
Really?
with appearances on, like, popular TV shows.
Interesting.
And these shows, while entertaining,
Yeah.
often blurred the lines between responsible journalism and, like, sensationalism.
So these TV appearances gave them a platform to share their theories with a bigger audience.
Right.
What were the core elements of their alternative narrative?
So they put forward this theory that Ricard and Angles,
Yeah.
if they were even involved at all, were merely pawns
Okay.
in a much larger and more sinister conspiracy.
I'm okay.
Their theory centered around this idea that the girls were victims of a powerful network involved in the production of snuff films.
Snuff films.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar,
Yeah.
snuff films refer to a genre of extremely disturbing and illegal videos
Okay.
that supposedly depict real-life murders.
Wow.
The very existence of these terms has been widely debated.
Right.
A lot of people consider it an urban legend,
Yeah.
but the concept of snuff films
Yeah.
taps into a primal fear.
Right.
The idea that there are powerful hidden forces capable of committing unspeakable acts
Right.
with impunity.
So, by alleging that the Alcácer girls were victims of this snuff film ring, Fernando Garcia and Juan Ignacio Blanco were basically saying that these murders were part of something much larger, much more organized, much more sinister.
Exactly.
Wow. How did this theory resonate with the public?
It resonated deeply with those who already had distrust toward the authorities
Right.
and who felt that official narrative was incomplete.
Yeah.
The snuff film theory provided a framework for understanding this seemingly senseless brutality.
Right.
It also played into existing fears
Yeah.
about corruption and the abuse of power.
It's a chilling thought,
It is,
and one that undoubtedly added fuel to the media frenzy.
oh, for sure.
Did Garcia and Blanco present any evidence?
They pointed to what they saw as inconsistencies in the investigation.
Okay.
Unexplained objects found at the crime scene.
Right.
Witness accounts that didn't align with the official story.
Like what?
Like, for example, one of the objects found with the bodies
Yeah.
was this crucifix.
Oh.
Didn't belong to any of the girls. This detail, while seemingly insignificant, became a focal point for speculation.
So it seems like they were piecing together a narrative based on gaps
Right.
in the official story and interpreting those gaps through the lens of their snuff film theory.
Yeah, exactly.
But did they ever accuse anyone specifically?
They did.
They did.
They went so far as to publicly name prominent figures
Wow.
they believed to be involved in the snuff film network.
Seriously.
And these accusations, broadcast on national television,
Wow.
amplified that media frenzy even more.
Right.
Turned the Alcácer case into a national obsession.
Wow.
People were glued to their screens,
Yeah.
eager for the latest developments and ready to believe even the most sensational claims.
Wow. Publicly naming names.
Yeah.
That's a bold move.
Very bold.
What were the consequences?
Well, the accusations
Yeah.
turned out to be unfounded.
Really?
The individuals named by Garcia and Blanco denied any involvement, and later investigations didn't produce any evidence to support the claims.
Wow.
This led to defamation lawsuits
Really?
against Garcia and Blanco,
Wow.
resulting in legal repercussions for both of them.
So their pursuit of the truth,
Yeah.
driven by grief and desire for justice,
Yeah.
ultimately led them down a path
Yeah.
with serious consequences.
Right.
What does this tell us about the nature of these conspiracy theories
Right.
and the impact on such a sensitive case?
Well, I think the Alcácer case highlights how misinformation can spread,
Yeah.
especially when it taps into existing fears and distrust.
Right.
While questioning the official narrative can be important,
Yeah.
especially when there are legitimate concerns.
Right.
Making these unfounded accusations can be damaging.
Right.
It can derail investigations, harm innocent individuals,
Yeah.
and ultimately hinder the pursuit of actual justice.
It's a reminder that the line between truth and misinformation can be thin,
Very thin.
and the consequences can be huge.
Right.
But beyond the legal and ethical implications,
Yeah.
what was the broader impact of the Alcácer case and the media frenzy?
Well, the Alcácer case became a prime example of what's often called telebasura in Spain.
Yeah.
It's a style of TV programming characterized by sensationalism,
Right.
exploitation,
Yeah.
and this focus on generating ratings rather than presenting balanced and accurate information.
Oh.
The constant coverage, the dramatic reenactments,
Yeah.
the pursuit of the most shocking details.
Yeah.
It turned a horrific tragedy into a form of entertainment.
It's a sad reality that tragedy can be commodified like that.
It is.
But how did all this sensationalized coverage impact the public
Right.
and their trust in the authorities?
I think it contributed to a sense of cynicism and distrust.
Right.
People started questioning everything.
Yeah.
The competence of the investigation, the motives of those in power.
Right.
The case became a symbol of a society grappling with its own anxieties about corruption, hidden agendas, and the limits of justice.
So we've explored the trial, the conviction, of Miguel Ricard,
Yeah,
the escape of Antonio Angles,
right.
and the rise of these alternative theories that captivated the nation.
That's wild.
But even with that conviction,
Yeah,
the Alcácer case remained shrouded in mystery
for sure.
and controversy.
Absolutely.
What happened next?
Right.
Did the story end there?
Well,
Or were there more twists and turns?
oh, yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
So the story doesn't end with that trial.
Okay.
In a shocking turn of events, Miguel Ricard
Yeah.
was released from prison in 2013
Seriously.
after serving only 21 years.
Of his 170-year sentence.
Yeah.
How?
This unexpected release reignited the debate
Oh, yeah.
surrounding the case
Yeah.
and reawakened the pain and frustration
I-
felt by those who had sought justice for Miriam, Tony, and Desiree.
21 years.
Yeah.
Why? How could that happen?
It was due to a change in sentencing guidelines.
Oh, wow.
A legal technicality, essentially, allowed for his early release.
Okay.
And while this decision was based on the letter of the law,
Yeah.
it ignited outrage and a renewed sense of injustice.
Yeah.
For many 21 years, simply didn't feel like enough.
Enough punishment
Yeah,
for the horrific crimes.
that he had committed.
Yeah.
It's understandable that people would be outraged,
Absolutely.
cheated by this.
Right.
But Ricard's release wasn't the only thing that kept the Alcácer case in the public eye.
No.
What other discoveries
Right.
or revelations
Yeah.
have kept this case alive?
New evidence,
Yeah.
however small, has continued to come out over the years.
Like what?
For example, bone fragments,
Okay,
possibly overlooked during that initial investigation,
right.
were discovered near the original gravesite.
Oh, wow.
These discoveries, while not providing definite answers,
Right.
rekindled hope that maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
some of the remaining mysteries could be solved.
So even years later,
Yeah,
this case refuses to fade away.
it doesn't. There are documentaries, podcasts, online forums,
All dedicated to dissecting the evidence,
exploring the theories.
trying to make sense of the senseless.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this case so compelling.
Right.
The enduring mystery,
Yeah.
this search for truth,
Hmm.
the need to find meaning in the face of tragedy.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Alcácer murders.
Mm-hmm.
They're more than a cold case.
They are.
They're a reflection of society's deepest fears.
And its ongoing struggle to reconcile with the darkest aspects of human nature.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
The investigation,
Yeah.
the trial,
Mm-hmm.
the media frenzy.
It's conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and the enduring impact.
The impact of the Alcácer murders on Spanish society.
But even after all this,
Right.
there are still so many unanswered questions.
Yeah.
In part 3,
Right.
we'll revisit those lingering mysteries
Yeah.
and explore why, even after all these years, the Alcácer case continues to fascinate, disturb, and demand our attention.
For sure.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So we're wrapping up our exploration into the Alcácer murders, and honestly, I'm still left with so many questions.
Yeah, it's a case that even after a conviction and decades of scrutiny, it's still got all this mystery surrounding it.
Like unanswered questions.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
Exactly.
But let's try and make sense of what we do know. And also, I think it's important to explore why this case continues to just captivate us.
Yeah, I think what's so fascinating about this case is that despite all the investigations, trials, media coverage, there are still these key questions that just haven't been answered.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And these unresolved issues are a big reason why people keep speculating and debating, you know? It's like the Alcácer case is this breeding ground for all these alternative theories.
Let's revisit those, because I keep coming back to like the lack of the girl's DNA at that initial crime scene.
Right, the abandoned shack.
Yeah, it seems like such a crucial piece of evidence.
Right. And yet, it was missing.
If the girls were held and tortured there, like Ricard's initial confession suggested,
Yeah.
wouldn't you expect to find their DNA?
I would think so.
This absence has led to a lot of theories.
Like what?
Well, some people believe it points to, police incompetence,
Oh,
while others suggest it was like a deliberate cover-up, something more intentional.
and then on top of that, we have the discrepancies between those two autopsies.
Right.
Dr. Frontella's findings, especially his suggestion that the girls might have been buried in two different locations, that just adds another layer of complexity.
Absolutely. And his report really raised some serious questions about the official timeline
Yeah.
and whether more people were involved. Right. But unfortunately, with so much time passed and the limitations of forensic technology back then,
Yeah.
it's unlikely we'll ever really get those definitive answers.
And let's not forget those unexplained objects found with the bodies.
Things that didn't seem to belong to the girls and didn't really fit into that official narrative.
Yeah, we talked about the crucifix.
Exactly. It just seemed out of place and fueled all that speculation.
These small details, became fuel for all those alternative theories.
Because people were just grasping for answers, trying to make sense of such a senseless crime.
Exactly. And in the absence of clear answers, even these small inconsistencies or unexplained objects take on a whole new meaning, feeding into this idea that something more was going on.
I think it's a natural human response, right?
Absolutely.
When you're faced with something so horrific and unexplainable.
Yeah, you try to fill in the gaps, create a narrative that somehow makes sense of all the chaos.
But sometimes that search for answers leads us down like a rabbit hole.
Right, a path of speculation and these conspiracy theories. It's like the human mind just naturally seeks patterns and explanations.
Even when they might not even exist.
Right, and in a case like this, with so many unanswered questions and so much emotional intensity,
it's crazy.
It's easy to see how alternative theories take root and spread.
And then, to make matters worse, Miguel Ricard was released from prison after serving only 21 years of his 170-year sentence.
Yeah, his release in 2013 was due to a legal technicality.
Oh, wow.
Related to sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
And it really sparked outrage.
Oh, I bet.
And just this renewed sense of injustice.
It just feels like the legal system failed to deliver,
Yeah, for a lot of people, 21 years didn't seem like enough.
For such horrific crimes.
Exactly.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
But even with Ricard's release, this case didn't just disappear.
Right, the Alcácer case didn't fade away.
What kept it in the public eye?
Well, new information, however small, continued to surface.
Okay, like what?
So, for example, in recent years, they found bone fragments near the original gravesite, possibly overlooked during the initial investigation.
Wow.
And these discoveries, even if they don't give us definitive answers, they keep the case alive.
And it fuels the hope, right? That maybe one day we'll uncover the missing pieces.
It's like the case just refuses to be forgotten.
Yeah.
To be buried along with the victims.
It's almost like it has a life of its own.
Yeah, you got documentaries, podcasts, online forums, all dedicated to revisiting the evidence, exploring those theories, and trying to understand what happened.
And I think that speaks to the power of unsolved mysteries,
Oh, absolutely.
The Alcácer case, it's more than just a crime.
Yeah.
It's a story that's woven into the fabric of Spain.
It's become a cautionary tale, a source of speculation, and a reminder of, the dark side of human nature.
So where does that leave us? After all this, what can we really take away from our deep dive into the Alcácer murders?
I think the biggest takeaway is that some mysteries might just never be fully solved.
Right.
But the search for truth, the desire to understand, and the need to find meaning in the face of tragedy.
Yeah.
Those are all essential parts of the human experience.
I think it's a reminder that even when faced with darkness, there's a part of us that wants to find the light. Make sense of the senseless,
right,
and restore order to a world that can feel really chaotic at times.
Absolutely.
So if you're interested in learning more, there are documentaries, articles, books.
Yeah, like that Netflix series, El Caso Alcácer.
Yes, that's a great one.
It gives a really comprehensive look at the case and how it impacted Spain.
But as you dive in, remember to be critical of the information you come across, Question assumptions and be mindful of the human cost of this tragedy.
The Alcácer murders, they're not just a puzzle to solve.
Fred, they're a story about real people.
Whose lives were tragically cut short.
Exactly.
And I have no doubt that the Alcácer murders, with all of their complexity and lingering mysteries, will probably continue to fascinate and disturb us for many years to come.
It's a case that forces us to confront our fears, question our ideas about justice, and just grapple with that enduring power of unsolved mysteries.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the Alcácer murders.
It's a case that stays with you, prompting reflection on the darker side of humanity and the complexities of truth and justice.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you back here soon for another deep dive into a new topic.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and your hearts open.